doctor, and I'm also standing here today as an ambassador for the Choice Foundation, an ideal organization that strives to introduce and implement primary prevention. That is prevention that is done before any damage has happened to the body. Today I'm going to tell you how we at the Choice Foundation try to improve and prevent mental illness, and an unhealthy lifestyle in adolescents. So, what do we do then? Well, our program is based on something called TUTCH, Teens Understanding and Taking Control of Health. Our vision is that by going out to schools, by giving simple information, we will be able to educate students, young people, so that they can take sound decisions on their own. We don't go out telling people what to do and what not to do. Instead, we believe that they're capable of taking the right decisions on their own. And our program is built on 2 different sessions once we go out to schools. The first session, we focus on the anatomy and physiology of the heart and the lungs, and what happens when you consume alcohol and when you smoke, for example. And then we have some patient cases. On the second session, we focus on the anatomy and physiology of the brain, the reward system, and addiction. What is addiction? And what happens when you consume different substances, such as drugs? And we are medical students and psychology students that go out to school and do this. We educate the young people, teachers, parents, and try to improve their health throughout their life. So, are you ready to learn a bit and get a sneak peek into what we have to offer? This is the human body. You have the heart in the center. It is tipped a bit to the left. You have red and blue blood vessels. Now, for you in the audience here, do you know what's the difference between an artery and a vein? Do you have any idea?
Artery.
Yes.
Artery is
Big one.
it's like trees.
Yeah, it's thick.
Thick, yeah.
Yes.
They are small.
The veins are smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a tree spreading.
Like a tree spreading. Yes, and that's actually true. So the artery is a much more solid blood vessel because it has a higher pressure in it, since it's leading blood from the heart. An artery is transporting blood from the heart to our organs, to our tissues, to our muscles, so that they can work properly. A vein isn't that much smaller, but it's more elastic. It's returning blood to our heart, and it doesn't have the same pressure in it. Now, the heart, in the center, a lot of us think that the heart is located to the left, but it's actually located in the middle of the body, tipped a bit to the left. And what does the heart do? Well, it has a very simple and basic function. Our heart is just a pump. Everything it does is pumping around blood through our muscles, through our tissues, through our organs, and then it returns to our heart, and then the heart once again pumps the blood back to our lungs, where they're filled with oxygen, and then return to the heart, and it will once again pump the blood to our body. Now, looking at the heart in more detail, we see that the heart has 2 different sides and different chambers. On the right-hand side, the blue side, that's where the blood returns from the body. It comes to the top chamber, goes down to the bottom chamber, then it's pumped to our lungs, where it is filled with oxygen, returned to our heart, to the left side, comes in on the top, goes down at the bottom, and once again, it is pumped to our body. Now, if you think about it, I don't know if you've heard how a heart sounds like. Maybe in a movie, or maybe you've had the opportunity through a stethoscope. But it sounds something like dup, 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 dup. And that is the sound of walls, doors closing in between these chambers, so that blood never runs backwards. It always goes in one direction. So you're actually hearing the heart working. Moving on to the lungs. Can everyone here for a second just focus on your breathing? Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. You quite quickly realize that it's hard to focus on your breathing. It's not something that you normally do, because this is an automatic motion. It is something that's done without us thinking about it. We don't go about all day thinking, breathe in, Kevin, breathe out, don't forget to breathe high, hello, don't breathe in, yes, and then breathe out. That would be very panic, right? We're going to get panic quite quickly. And when we breathe, we use our biggest breathing muscle, the diaphragm. It is located just underneath our lungs. And then when we breathe, we contract the muscle, it pulls down our lungs, creates more space in our chest, making air drawn in from our mouth, nose, down to our chest, and then we want to breathe out. We simply relax. And the muscle is pushed up, it squeezes our lungs, and the air is pushed out. This is just like a balloon. Our lungs work like balloons. They are hard to fill, but once we want to release the air, once we want to empty them, we simply let go. And that, when we come down deeper in the lung, we reach these small bubbles. They are like grapes. And this is where the air comes and where the oxygen leaves our lungs to our blood vessels. And if you take these grapes, all of them in our lungs, and you cut them open and you lay them down on the floor, you will have the size of a football pitch. That is the amount, that is the capacity we have in our lungs to take up air. Now, for some diseases, a disease called chronic obstructive lung disease, or COL, you might have heard of it, these grapes, these bubbles are destroyed, and instead of being a grape, they become an orange. Now, what is the problem with an orange? It is that it's not as good as a balloon. It is instead more like a plastic bag. It is easy to fill it with air, but once you relax, you can't really empty it with air. You will always have air left in it, and then you have a hard time getting new fresh air in with fresh oxygen to fill your body. Now, we at the Choice Foundation, when we go out to schools and educate them, we focus sometimes on something called Brainstorm. Brainstorm is an opportunity for the students to discuss different things, they bring them up, and then we answer their questions. For example, they have the opportunity to discuss alcohol. What happens in the body when you consume alcohol? Why do we react the way we do when we drink alcohol? Or if we take smoking here for an example. What do you guys think about when you think about a cigarette, smoking, a disease associated with cigarettes or smoking? Do we have any guesses or suggestions?
I have idea.
Yeah.
For example, with smoking, we have to work with desire. If we want to change our people,
Yeah.
first we don't have to say that it's destroy our health, for example. If you show this one picture of the smoking man, for example,
Yeah.
you will see the dark side of this. And smoking person can drop these habits only for 2 weeks because he afraid.
Yeah.
But if you work with his mental thinking, it will help him.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that by showing pictures that might scare someone, isn't that helpful?
It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. And that's also exactly what we believe. That's why when we go out to schools, we inform young people what happens, why does it happen, why does the body react the way it does? And then we hope that the students, the young people, can take the decision by themselves. We don't tell them that by smoking you increase your risk of this and that disorder and you might die early. Because we don't believe that either, that it helps by scaring anyone. Because once you're young, you're Superman, you're Batman, you're Spider-Man. It will never happen to you. That's why I don't think it works, by scaring people. But let me show you a patient case instead. Sometimes we have patient cases where the students get to be the doctor and I get to be the patient. And here we have a 55-year-old man who's been coughing for a couple of months and he's lost weight. Now this is probably a man who's been smoking, but we can have a look at his scan of his lungs. Now the big picture is quite blurry, but in the center, this person is standing like this, like me, in front of you. In the center, you have the spine. Underneath here, you have a band-formed shape. That's our diaphragm, our breathing muscle. To your right, you have the liver. You can see hints of it. And to your left, you have the stomach. And here, actually, you see small shades going like this. It's not that visible, and that's our ribs. Now, does anyone have a guess for what this structure is here? It is located in the center, a bit to the left. Any suggestions? What can it be? The heart, perfect. Yeah, that's our beautiful heart, our pump. Now, somewhere in that top corner, it is something that looks strange. And that is a lung tumor. That's not supposed to be there. A lung should be more like this side. You can see basically through it. Now, this was a sneak peek in our first session, the Choice Foundation, looking to prevent illnesses among youth by educating them in what happens when you consume different substances or when you have a bad and unhealthy lifestyle. Moving on to our brain, our beautiful brain. Did you actually know that my brain, at the moment, in my head, if I would touch it, it would have the consistency, it would feel like melted butter. That is how soft my brain is. So by simply just pushing it a bit, I would destroy it with my finger. Now our brain does different things, and we need it for several things in our life. To feel, to plan stuff, to move our body, and different parts of the brain control different things. The front of my brain is responsible for social interaction, personality, planning, thinking of consequence. And it's also the part that is the latest, it's developed the latest, around 25 years. On the left-hand side, I have parts controlling my speech, how I speak, how I understand spoken word. In the back, I have my vision center. And on the top, I have a part responsible for movement and orientation and attention. In the back here, we have a small brain, cerebellum, that's in charge of my balance and coordination. If I walk here on stage and I slip, it's my cerebellum who's catching me. And then we have my brain stem, a primitive part of the brain that hasn't developed that much the last thousands of years. And it's responsible for sleeping, breathing, primary things that we need to stay alive. Now jumping in deeper in our brain, we see here our big brain, we see the cerebellum, you see the brainstem, and then the spinal cord. This is our central nervous system, and it's in charge of controlling our body. So when I want to move my arm, when I'm doing this movement, my right-hand side of the brain says, Kayla, move your arm. And then the signal goes down to my spinal cord, it goes out to my left arm, to my muscles, and I move it. And it's done by these yellow nerve fibers. So if I have a damage on my spinal cord, if my spinal cord is cut at a certain level, I lose the connection between my brain and that body part. And that's what happens when you get paralyzed. Now looking into more depth in the brain, it is built up by brain cells, nerve cells, millions and millions of these nerve cells. So when I want to do something, my brain sends a signal to one nerve cell, to another nerve cell, to another nerve cell, and in the end to my arm, to my muscles. Now the nerve cells look something like this. It has a body and a long arm reaching out. And the signal goes from one nerve cell, and in between here we have the synapse. That's where the information is transported between two nerve cells. So when I want to move my arm, the nerve cell signals, move your arm, a molecule is released between these nerve cells. It is caught by the other nerve cell, and then it's transported to the next nerve cell. But if I, for example, feel joy or happiness, like when I eat a chocolate bar, there is another molecule, that's dopamine. Dopamine is the one signaling joy and satisfaction, what I'm feeling right now when I'm smiling. And that only happens in the brain. That's a sensation of the brain. And that leads us to the reward system. Now, why do we have a reward system? Does anyone know here in the audience? Why do we need a reward system? What is the reward system? Do you guys know? Any guesses? So that we can eat plenty and plenty of chocolate bars and feel happy and satisfied. No, but the reward system is a primitive system that helps us stay alive. It is there to tell us what to do and what not to do. So for example, when I was a kid, when I was about your age, guys, I put my hand into fire and I burned myself really bad. I got scared, I started crying. My reward system remembered this and said, Kevan, next time don't put your hand in fire because it's bad and dangerous for you. If I instead when I was a child, ate food when I was hungry, I felt pleasant, satisfied, comfortable. My reward system will say, eat food, that is good for you. And I will continue eating food. So it helps me stay alive. But sometimes it goes overboard. When I was a child, I was bitten by a spider. It hurt, I got scared. My reward system goes overboard, so anytime now when I see a spider somewhere, or if I see it on television, I might panic and not being able to control myself. That's also my reward system saying, remember that time you got bitten, how much it hurt and how scary it was? Stay away from spiders. The same thing happens with addiction, and when it comes to our lovely chocolate bar, like Marabou, or I don't know if you know the Swedish ones. But when I eat chocolate for the first time, when I eat sugar for the first time, my brain goes a bit crazy. Dopamine is released, I'm feeling satisfied, pleasant, happy. And then my brain says, wow, this chocolate bar, sugar, this was something new. It was better than broccoli, it was better than pasta. If you can choose next time, choose a chocolate bar. And try to eat as many chocolate bars as possible, because we've never felt that thing we felt when we ate a chocolate bar. So what happens? The next day I have a strong urge, I really want a new chocolate bar. I remember that sensation of that juicy chocolate bar. So I buy a new one. And then the next day I buy another one. And then I continue buying it. But after a while, my brain says, hey, Kevan, have you thought about chocolate bars? It is actually your new life. You eat chocolate bars every day now. So it's not that exciting anymore. But somewhere in me, I remember that first sensation of that first chocolate bar. So I'm still hunting that sensation, which I can't get with one chocolate bar anymore. So either I take something else, or I start eating 2 chocolate bars every day. And my brain goes, wow, amazing. Dopamine is released, I feel satisfaction, I'm happy and pleased. And it goes on, and after a while I eat 3 chocolate bars, 4 chocolate bars, and so it goes on. So if we look at addiction, it's a strong urge. I really want that chocolate bar. It is also problems with control. One day I had 5 chocolate bars and I just ate them at once without thinking, because they're so good. I really want that sensation, the kick. Tolerance. Tolerance is what I was trying to explain, that after a while 1 chocolate bar isn't enough to give me the same sensation, so I start eating 2 chocolate bars every day. Lack of interest. What we need to understand with drugs and with chocolate bars is that once we get the sensation, we will compare that with everything else. We will choose the chocolate bar whenever we have the opportunity. We would choose the chocolate bar instead of eating our food. We would choose the chocolate bar instead of hanging out with our friends, because we're prioritizing of getting that chocolate bar. Consumption despite damage. If I tell someone that smoking is bad for you, they won't be surprised. I won't be shocking them. but they still do it. That's typical for addiction. And then we have abstinence. Now, abstinence is a really interesting thing. It is the counter reaction of our brain when we can't get the thing we want. So the chocolate bar makes me happy and satisfied and excited. When I can't get the chocolate bar, I get tired, maybe sad, and irritated. Let me give you another example. If we take a sleeping pill, or anything that puts you to sleep during night, our brain is always in balance. It has one part controlling go to sleep, it has one part controlling stay awake. Now, during the day, my brain tells me go, stay awake, and during night, my brain says go to sleep. But if I start taking the sleeping pill, I will put myself to sleep, and my brain will say, hey, Kevin, I don't need to put you to sleep anymore, so I will stop doing that. I will only help you to stay awake. The new normal is me taking sleeping pills. But the day I stop taking sleeping pills, my brain won't put me to sleep. It will instead focus on keeping me awake. So then I have a hard time falling asleep. And this goes for addiction. If I take something that makes me happy, I will be sad when I can't get it. If I take something that gives me energy, I will feel tired when I can't get it. The problem then is that I won't reflect on it. I will reflect that once I ate the chocolate bar, I was happy and satisfied. And without the chocolate bar, I am sad and everything is dull. So I think that, I feel better when I eat chocolate bars, so why shouldn't I continue eating chocolate bars? But the reason that I'm in that place is because I have an addiction to chocolate bars. So that's abstinence. Now what can we be addicted to? Any suggestions? Do you have a suggestion what we can be addicted to? Smoking. Perfectly, yes. And you can be addicted to anything. Coffee, smoking, sugar, chocolate bars, physical activity, and gaming. You name it. So you can be addicted to anything, and that's the dangerous thing. So we try with this to educate young people to realize when they might have an addiction. What is an addiction? And of course we focus on where they should turn if they need any help, and how they can get help. So this was a sneak peek into our 2 sessions from the Choice Foundation, where we focus on educating young people in the body and health, what happens when they consume different substances, why our body reacts the way it does, and of course, where they can go to get help. Thank you.